welcome back to another vid. I've picked up a few games over the last couple of months, maybe a little bit longer. So I thought I'd show you what they are, talk about them a little bit. There are 5 altogether. There's 2 digital games, and there are 2 peripherals. Very briefly talk about those. So, yeah, first one up is Street Fighter 2 Turbo on the Super Nintendo, PAL, quite obviously. So look at the spines, man. The spines, the purple colour. So vibrant and brilliant. Absolutely love it. So yeah, basically, this is just Street Fighter 2, but sped up, and a few extra moves thrown in, and some extra characters. The extra characters are basically the bosses. So, yeah, you couldn't do that in the first game. You couldn't fight with them. On this one, you can. So, yeah, if you're going to buy Street Fighter 2, then if you're like me, of course, nostalgic and greedy, you're going to buy them both. But if you haven't got a Street Fighter 2 game, and you want to get one, probably this is the best one to go with. Street Fighter 2 Turbo. It's just a faster experience. Can you even see anything on the back? Probably not because of the glare. But yeah, a better experience, a faster gameplay, several kind of speed settings you can choose, more characters, more moves. It's just a better version of the game. But the first one's still good. You know, a lot of people say that it's slow. Yeah, obviously in comparison to Street Fighter 2 Turbo, it is slow. But even that aside, it's quite a slow game. But I still have fun with it. It's not like treacle slow. Not for me anyway. But it could be nostalgia. Now the next one up, I've only put on for around about 10 minutes. So I can't talk too much about it. But what I will do, I mean, I don't know if you watch my Friday brews, my Monday brew, I guess the other day. Or just vlogs in general. But what I tend to do is a timestamp in there. And you can fast forward to whatever you want to watch if you want to skip other topics. And one of the things I do is what have I been playing lately. So this may be one of them. Maybe whether it's next week or next month or whenever. And the game is Pushover. So yeah, on the Super Nintendo, again, with the spines, if you want to see all that. This is obviously black. Not too dissimilar to the American games, I guess. But it's a puzzle game, essentially. Now, back in 91, maybe 1992, that kind of time, I did have this game on the Atari ST. As I always point out, there it is. What a system. Best system ever, apart from the Amiga and the SNES. So the third best system ever then. Maybe not even that. But I really love it. So yeah, I used to absolutely love it on the Atari ST. And but it's difficult, it's challenging, it looks really easy. Kind of lining up all these dominoes and then pushing them over. But it's actually quite hard, it's quite difficult. Maybe one day in the future, I'll do some kind of gameplay. Or maybe not. What I'll do for this vid, I've probably already started doing it actually, because I've just started doing this now. I'll put some screenshots so you can see what it looks like if you care. So yeah, that's Pushover. If you like your puzzle games, it comes recommended. And I do want to get it back on the Atari ST or the Amiga. Of course, they come in the same boxes, so it doesn't really bother me. And yeah, that'll be a proper dose of nostalgia if I get that back. But it's not a priority. I can think of 1,000 games I'd rather have than Pushover on the Atari ST. But this came up at a really good price. I think it was like 15 quid, maybe even less than that. And I just thought, for me, it's in really good condition. I'm going to get it. So this one, I would have showed, the next 2, by the way, are on the PlayStation 3. I would have showed this off on a pickups vid. So here I am, buying games back, unbelievable. But this is like 5 years ago, I got rid of it. So I've bought it back. And back when it came out, and I would have said it on vid, I was very, very underwhelmed, and that was an understatement. And I've got to be honest, I still am. It's not a great game. It's not one of those where all the years have gone by, like 5, 6 years, and all of a sudden I think it's great. Not at all. It's still a very, for me, average and disappointing game. But I think I've just appreciated a little bit more for what it is. And that game is Duke Nukem Forever, like I say, on the PlayStation 3. So, yeah, at the time, if anyone remembers, this game was massively delayed, probably, what, like 2 or 3 years or something. It kept getting pushed back all the time. And then when it finally did come out, it just wasn't particularly good. It was, there's a lot of expectations on this game. What disappointed me wasn't so much the gameplay, which is quite basic, like a first-person shooter, or free roaming to a degree, I guess. Not really free roaming, it's probably first-person shooter is probably the more accurate thing. But what disappointed me was the humour. I found it's not that I'm not a prude by any stretch of the imagination, but it's a little bit crude, a little bit crass. More importantly for me, it just wasn't very funny. I didn't think so. But here's the thing. Maybe I was being harsh because that's what Duke Nukem is all about, isn't it? That's the character. It's that toilet humour. It's a little bit childish. and then I was playing it as an adult, like 5-6 years ago, whenever it came out, and I didn't find it funny. But maybe if I'd have played the early Duke Nukem games, I would have got it, I would have understood it, and I would have maybe cut it some slack. So I think maybe this is the kind of, almost like a homage to fans of the original games. So if you like Duke Nukem, if you find that humour funny, you're probably going to like this one. But I never did, so that's probably why I didn't really like it. As a game, it's quite basic. It's not awful. I just think it was just... It didn't offer anything new. Because it was delayed for so long, there were so many other games that came out before it that were substantially better than it. So it ended up just being a massive disappointment for me. And like I say, I'm not going to lie, I thought the humour just didn't work. I didn't find it funny. I still don't. I never will. But maybe as a game, bearing in mind everything, you know, that it's maybe specifically aimed at fans of the game, maybe I can appreciate it a little bit more. But it's still not great. But one of the things I do like, and I talked about, I think, in my original vid 5-6 years ago, as I say, you can shrink down to a little kind of mini Duke Nukem in like a remote control car. And it's kind of fun to a degree. But yeah, it's a throwaway game, quite frankly, unless you're a massive fan of the franchise, which, as I keep saying, I've never really been. It's decent as a franchise, but nah, not for me. I remember playing it on the PC back in the mid-90s. It was alright. Played it briefly on the PS1 and maybe the Saturn as well. But for me, quite frankly, it's no Doom. I think that was its big rival, wasn't it, really? Duke Nukem and Doom. Doom trounces this. Absolutely trounces it. Is that controversial? I don't think so. And then next up, and last up but not least, on the PlayStation 3, we've got a really funny game. You know, kind of cartoon character driven, and speaking of driven, actually, I'll just show you what it is. F1 Race Stars. So it's Formula 1 with some real Formula 1 drivers, and there's some fake ones as well, I guess. Yeah, there must be a few. But Lewis Hamilton is there, amongst others. And yeah, it's basically like, it's very cartoony. It's a Formula 1 game, but cross that with like a Mario Kart, and that's essentially what you've got. It's just really light-hearted. It's actually quite challenging, a little bit difficult in places, but a cartoony Formula 1 game with perks and power-ups and all that kind of stuff. And again, purple spines, like a purple fest. So I like it. It was cheap. Duke Nukem was cheap as well. This was around about $6. And for that kind of price, $6 being around about £4, give or take, I thought, bargain. I've got to get it. So yeah, I'm having fun with it. It's pretty good. Boxed and complete. Not done that one for a few years. But boxed and complete with instructions. Remember these days? Mind you, even then, it's just a few pages. I guess the PlayStation 3, that's it basically. I guess the PlayStation 3, it was coming towards the end of that era, wasn't it? Where people weren't really bothering with instructions. When did it come out? Like 2011? 2012? Yeah, 2012. So, in the scheme of things, it's not that old, is it? It's only 6 years. But, yeah, it's fun. If you like your Mario games, if you like Formula 1 as well, well, you're laughing. It's just a crossover. On the Commodore Amiga, we've got this game. Oh, I'll tell you what annoyed me about this. It's not even the bloody game. It's something I did the other day. Let me show you what it is. It's called Mystery of the Mummy, and it's by Rainbow Arts. So you'd think of the likes of Turrican, I guess, springs to mind. Now, look at there at the bottom. You can see like a stain, and that was caused by me the other day. What an absolute knobhead. Basically, I was drinking some water, and I accidentally kicked. How I managed that, God knows. I kicked the water, and thankfully, there was only a tiny bit of water left in the bottom. But of course, it went along the shelf where all the Amiga games are, down there, basically. So I was playing on the Amiga, naturally. And I knew instantly, I was like, oh Christ, it's going to ruin the game. So I just leapt across the floor like bloody Superman, and moved all the games out of the way. But now the other ones were fine. This one wasn't, as you can see, because it comes in one of these kind of slip cases. So this cardboard is more susceptible to damage. The other ones are very kind of sturdy, so it didn't make any damage at all. But this one did. And even though I got to it within seconds, the damage had already been done. So, I mean, it's fine. To be perfectly honest as well, it's faded anyway, and it was already like that. Whereas that's a lot more, well, you can clearly see it's a lot more vibrant than that with the sun fade. So, yeah, if I'm that bothered about it, which I am, I'll just put it on the shelf like that so you can't see. But that annoys me, and it really shouldn't. But anyway, so it's basically an adventure game, almost like a graphic text point-and-click kind of thing. Now, look at the colour scheme on the back. Not very vibrant, as you can see. It's basically reserved for black, orangey, kind of yellow, white, grey colours. And it just looks a little bit bland. But if you love those kind of games, and I do, where it makes you think what to do, like a detective kind of game, an adventure game essentially, I just find them really immersive. So if you like those, you'll probably like this. So yeah, 1989. So it's quite primitive, it's quite basic in what it can do, but I like it, and poster included. It comes with the poster. It will not be going up on my wall, but I'm glad it came with the poster. It's actually really hard to find that game, believe it or not, and which makes it doubly annoying that there's now a little bit of damage on there. So if you go onto eBay, I'm going to hazard I bet you any money, let's say 10 pence, if you go on eBay right now, you will not see a copy of this, either currently being listed or previously sold in the last month or two. So that's my bet. It's really, really hard to track down. Wait and see. Of course, you go on there now, and there'll be 500 of the bloody things on there. But it's a very, very uncommon game, and as a result, can usually fetch a bit of money. I think I paid around about 30 quid for it from a seller in Canada, so I didn't have to pay, you know, import fees or crazy shipping fees from the UK. So yeah, really pleased to get it, but it's a very basic game. I love that noise, even though I'm probably doing damage to the discs. I absolutely love that noise of the discs moving about. Very nostalgic. So yeah, expensive game, well, relatively 30 quid, which is about $45. A very uncommon game, but quite a basic game. But if you like that genre, you'll probably like it. So moving on to a couple of the digital purchases that I've made. Now I'm not going to elaborate on the first one because I did it in my previous Monday brew actually, wasn't it? And that is Sherlock Holmes, The Devil's Daughter. So it's funny actually because that game is similar to this. It's that kind of whole Victorian kind of London thing, despite this being set in Hamburg in Germany. But you know what I mean, with the setting, the cobbled streets, just the time period, it's the same kind of thing. So yeah, Sherlock Holmes, it's the sequel. The first one was Crimes and Punishments, which I had on the Xbox One, going back 2 or 3 years ago, which I did start to play, but it just bored me a little bit. I think Ben Shenmuso left a similar comment. You know, he started to play it a few years ago. I don't know if it was on his Xbox or PlayStation or PC, maybe. He just lost interest because it was quite heavy and involving, and yeah, I agree. I can't play these games for too long before I do get that feeling. So even something like this, I've been putting it on for like sort of 25 minutes, half an hour, and then having a break, and then maybe going back to it like a day or two later. I can't put it on for like 2 or 3 hours. I just can't do that. So yeah, it's the same with Sherlock Holmes. I'll put it on for maybe half an hour, maybe an hour, maybe, if I can solve the clues quite quickly. But then I've got to knock it off, and I've got to put on like a FIFA or I don't know, something like a Battlefield, something quite, you know, fast-paced, where it's not too involving. So, but yeah, it's a good game. It's a good game. I talked about it on. Sorry, I was laughing there. Good game, like a bloody Bruce Forsyth. So yeah, I talked about it on the brew, but it's not for everyone. But I like it. If you like those kind of point-and-click adventure games, it may be your kind of thing. And then the other game I've got is The Sims 4 digital download. I picked this up for, I think it's like $20. In hindsight, maybe I should have just, well, A, not bought it at all, or B, just picked up the physical game, probably cheaper in a few months as well. But it was on sale from like $50 at $20, comes with some of the DLC as well. And I just thought, do you know what, I'm going to get it. Because in theory, I love the idea of playing games like The Sims. I know it sounds geeky, but I love the idea of just creating a town, creating individuals, possibly naming them after people I know as well. This is sounding weird, isn't it? You probably do it too, so shut your face. And designing them, and giving them jobs, and creating the houses, and creating the houses like the streets I used to live in. These sound really freaky now, isn't it? Very geeky as well. But I love the idea of doing it, I really do. But the problem is, there's two problems. One, it's very, very involving. And it comes down to this, you know, where I touched upon, where I get bored very, very fast as I get older. I love the idea, in theory, of playing these games and playing The Sims, but in practice, I lose patience. I want something fast-paced. So I've found that I've not really been playing The Sims too much, because it's very fiddly, you know. And then connected with that, those games are probably more suited to the PC or the Mac with a mouse. It's not really with the controller. It's too fiddly. But maybe perseverance. I'll get used to it eventually, maybe. But I've put it on for about an hour or so, and I've created a few characters. And like I say, I've got them walking around this little street that I've kind of created. I can see why people like it. I love the idea, like I say, I've given them jobs, and it's going to sound really weird, even weirder, of like kind of making them go to bed at a certain time and at night time, and putting the furniture in the houses. It just sounds ridiculous, doesn't it? But if you like those kind of games, you'll know what I mean. There's something very addictive about it. So I've been playing that, like I say, for about an hour. It's alright, but it's more suited to the PC or the Mac, quite frankly. So it was possibly a bit of a waste of money. But an impulsive purchase, PlayStation sales, and I thought, let's just do it, $20. But I will persevere with it. I will. It's just fiddly on the controls, on the PlayStation controls. And speaking of, that leads me on to the last two things I bought, and it's controllers. There's two altogether. So I've just picked this one up around about a week or so ago. It's the Crystal Red PlayStation 4 controller. It's just a PlayStation 4 controller. There's nothing new about it in that sense, other than the fact that, as you can see down there, it's kind of transparent. So it's crystal, apart from the back, which is quite solid. So I love the look of it. It's really vibrant. It does look nice. I'm not collecting controllers. I do have 3 of them, but one was obviously the default one that came with the system, the PlayStation 4 Pro, when I got it last year, or the year before, whenever it was. So that's been relegated to like just a spare one. So this one is being used as my kind of secondary controller for as and when someone else wants to play on the PlayStation 4. But my main one, and this one I bought around about 2 months ago, give or take, and it's still plugged on, the light is on, and it's the blue one, naturally, of course. So it's the same kind of design. It's crystal blue, as you can see, the light's shining there. So crystal blue one and the crystal red kind of come from the same family. Now there are 2 others, I believe. There's the crystal gold one and a silver one. And despite saying I'm not collecting controllers, I kind of want them. I know it's a waste of money, but I just want to get them. So I may pick them up in the coming months. But they're $60, so I'm not going to pay $60 for it, but I'll probably pick them up when they're maybe sort of $20, $25. I know what you're thinking, it's just controllers. But they look nice, come on, look at that. The crystal blue and the crystal red. Obviously all of you prefer the blue one, right? Maybe not. I like them both, to be fair. So there we go. So not a lot to show, really. But there we are. So yeah, just done the football vid, so you'll see that one if you want to watch your football. I done did the Monday brew. I may do, and then this one, of course, I may do the Friday brew, but I may wait a week, because otherwise it'd be like 4 videos in a week, and that's quite a long time. But if I've got things to talk about, that's what it comes down to. If I've got things to talk about, I will do the brew on Friday, but it may just be next Friday instead. Anyway, thank you for watching. Until my next vid, see you later.